Hello guys, Navneet here and welcome back to our review where we bring latest fragrances, the most popular fragrances in the market. We segment them out and bring that in front of you so that you know what kind of fragrances you want this year. With that being said, the brand which we are going to talk about today is Aeronot. Now, Aeronot is not a new brand. That is actually a designer brand from India. So this is actually from our very own country. Today's video, we are going to talk about two of the new fragrances launched from the brand. So I have been a big fan of Aeronot fragrances and I was actually waiting for the release of these two fragrances. Now, these come from not the iconic series but from the exclusive collection, and the fragrances are DUNES the ZA'FARAN and the second one is the Might of Africa. I think that honestly speaking, this fragrance brand could be one of the best selling fragrance brands in this year by the end of 2023, and I've been in touch with the brand for about a few months, and what I see in this brand is that they have a variety of fragrances to offer. They are trying to offer you something very niche, very unique. A lot of brands don't want to enter the designer segment, and this brand is trying to even enter the niche segment. So in today's video, we'll be talking about two of their fragrances from Aeronot brand, and we'll be seeing what these fragrances have to offer. We'll be doing an in and out review of the entire fragrance, and by the end of this video, I just want to make sure that you have a clear perspective of what kind of fragrances these are, and you get to know what fragrance you can buy and what fragrance is not for you. With that being said, let's start today's review after this intro. I've been trying a lot of Aeronot fragrances and I'm actually very in love with the brand. The brand has actually offered a lot of good things to the Indian consumers. They are trying to offer you very beautiful things. The bottle and the packaging, all of that looks very premium, very plush. So here's the look at the bottles of the fragrance. Let's look at the box of the fragrance. The box of the fragrance for both of these are very identical. So I'll just show you one of the box. So at the top you get the Aeronot exclusive logo. Now exclusive. And then again you get at the side you get the Aeronot exclusive logo again. At the front you get the collection. The exclusive, wherein you have what this fragrance has, the EDP concentration 50 ml obviously. So that is all this box has, and let me show you the inside of the box. The inside of the box is all cardboard. The sponge, they have the sponge layering so that your fragrance fits properly. So just an example, the fragrance will fit like this, so even if you tilt this around it won't fall. So that is the kind of sponge, and they have that. It looks very premium, very plush, and the box itself, the box is much more heavy. They're spending a lot of money on packaging. So to be honest, the thing is that jo dikhta hai wo bikta hai. So that is the concept, and this fragrance has everything what you need. The bottles, the bottle of the fragrance is very minimal. They have kept it very simple, very elegant, and the cap is plastic, and the atomizer is good enough. You get a very good throw from the atomizer, and then again the packaging and all of that looks very premium. There are two of the fragrances which I have with me as of now. The first one is the Might of Africa. Now, Might of Africa is a very warm, rich fragrance. This actually is an inspiration. So when I was talking to the co-founder of the brand, and that was Mr. Abhishek Raina, he explained it to me that he lived a few years in Africa, and fragrances typically tend to be much more on the warmer side. They are much more spicier. So if you like spicy fragrances, if you like something zesty, something it keeps you a class apart, this could be a fragrance for you. And we'll be talking about this fragrance, no worries about that. And the second fragrance is from the Moroccan deserts, and that is DUNES the ZA'FARAN. Now, DUNES the ZA'FARAN is not essentially made in Morocco, but this fragrance reminds you of that very country. This is the kind of fragrances I would recommend you guys, and only in you guys, to try if you want something much more sophisticated. So this is a very sophisticated, clean fragrances. Very beautiful thing about this brand is that the packaging of the fragrance they have, I think no other brand as of now is offering these kind of packaging, and to be honest, even it brings a lot of plushness to the brand. So what happened was that when I got these parcels, my dad actually received these parcels, and he was actually very happy seeing the packaging of the fragrances because they look kind of very premium, very if you could say that these are actually the designer fragrances from India. So that's actually a benchmark for other fragrances brand to follow. And with that being said, let's talk about the fragrances and not about the brand. And that was just a gist about both of these fragrances. Let's start with the review, and the first fragrance which we are going to talk about would be DUNES the ZA'FARAN. The scent is actually described as an ode to the Moroccan fields, of where they grow a lot of saffron. So this has a lot of saffron in the top, and apart from that, quickly you get a slight sweet and bitter amalgamation of raspberry. So raspberry and spicy saffron at the top. So that is the top of the fragrance. At the bottom you get this woody intense notes, and this fragrance is actually one of the fragrances which I like for the top itself. I've been using a lot of this fragrance, as you can see, and it has hardly been a week. I think that if you are looking for something, let's say more As I already mentioned, this is a very sophisticated, clean fragrance, and at the same time, this reminds you of let's say an event wherein you can wear this fragrance. It would be a very signature sort of event, and this fragrance could actually be a signature scent for you. What I would basically describe this fragrance as is a sweet amalgamation of raspberry. There are notes of saffron as well in this fragrance. Apart from saffron, you get the notes of rose. There is leather, so leather blend with saffron, which actually makes this fragrance much more potent. These are very costly notes, very expensive notes, so you already get a very expensive feel from this fragrance. And DUNES ZA'FARAN, you know, it actually states it very easily. They have a very minimal bottle design, and you get to see all the notes of the fragrance. So the notes of the fragrance, I'll just read them out aloud for you. The notes of the fragrance are saffron, raspberry, rose leather, grapefruit, black violet. And I think that the most prominent note for me has been saffron at the top, and apart from saffron, there are sweet and bitter notes of raspberry as well. There has been a lot of use of leather. Rose is very subtly and very beautifully done at the base, and somewhat at the base you also feel this black violet. So black violet also comes at the base, and I've been using this more than Might of Africa. So now Might of Africa is a fragrance which is spicier. This is actually a very clean, sophisticated fragrance. I would actually, when you use this fragrance for the very first time, you get to feel how a sophisticated, how a beautiful fragrance can actually smell like. The base is actually very smoky, and not only smoky, this has actually woody notes on it, and it basically feels very premium, very plush. I would definitely recommend these fragrances to teenagers, because I just want you guys to try what kind of fragrances could be the fragrances you would be using for like 10 years down the line. These kind of fragrances you can still use in EDP concentration again, guys. And for anyone who's looking for the exclusive collection, I think that the exclusive collection is basically trying to give you more than what the Iconic had to offer. The Iconic was basically to introduce you to the world of fragrance. This is actually for people who are, you know, who are actually into the fragrance business, who are actually loving fragrances. You love fragrances. If you are a collector, even if you want to, you know, have a weird sort of flex for the fragrance, if you want to smell good in the room, this could be the fragrance absolutely for you. I think that DUNES ZA'FARAN could be a fragrance for every age group. If you want to smell rich, smell expensive, you know, there's no harm in smelling expensive, and this fragrance actually gives you that sort of feel. What actually happened was that when I tried this fragrance for the very first time, I saw a lot of people actually noticing me. A lot of people actually asked me what fragrance I was wearing, and it happens only at times when I wear something very different. So this was actually a very different fragrance for me, and I have not done a lot of experiment with saffron, to be honest with you guys, and I would actually like to try more saffron fragrances based on DUNES ZA'FARAN. So that was about the first fragrance in the line. This could be a fragrance which you can use throughout the year. The longevity of the fragrance is actually very good. When it comes to longevity, the brand has a very clear concept, and that is they try to provide you long-lasting fragrances, because that leaves an actual impact. So when I was talking to the founder itself, they told me that all of the fragrances which they make, they add more concentration to make it much more potent, to make it much more powerful. The longevity of the fragrance is actually very, very good for all of the fragrances. Even for the Iconic series, the longevities are actually good, and the kind of response which I got from most of the comments was actually very good, because it hardly happens that, you know, there are some fragrances which people like, some fragrances which people dislike. Now this brand actually is from India, and even after being from India, wherein the perfume brands which are launching right now, so these brands have a year experience of 3 to 4 years, 5 years at max, and they are competing with worldwide brands. With them actually becomes very difficult for us, because these brands have been actually existing for the last 100 years, and these brands are offering you the same sort of feel, same premium rich feel. That is the kind of fragrance you are going for. Now first one was DUNES ZA'FARAN. Projection is good. The projection of the fragrance is actually 3 to 4 feet, as I already mentioned. The longevity of the fragrance is actually good, 8 to 9 hours of longevity, very easily if you apply it on clothes, maybe more. And that was about the first fragrance, DUNES ZA'FARAN. Moving on to the second fragrance, and that fragrance is the Might of Africa. So how powerful is Africa? Let's see what the Might of Africa has to offer. And I've been experimenting with this fragrance for a very long time, and what I feel about this fragrance is that this fragrance actually sums up the African culture into one single bottle, and the fragrance is very warm, very sophisticated. It is actually a blend of black pepper and nutmeg. So with black pepper and nutmeg, what you get is a very spicy kind of fragrances. I think a lot of you actually understand black pepper adds that spiciness to the fragrance, and nutmeg adds that perfect amount of balance to make it much more clean at the same time. So that is what this fragrance is. At the top you get the rush of cardamom, जिसे हम बोलते हैं, and we say that in Hindi, that is इलायची. So इलायची का note जो है, and that actually adds a very beautiful blend to the overall fragrance. Cardamom, then we have nutmeg, then we have black pepper. At the base you have vanilla, tobacco and cedar wood. So the base is very woody. You have the notes of cinnamon, you have the notes of tobacco, and at the same time you have the notes of vanilla. So vanilla is the most prominent note in the base. Again, for guys, if you are looking for a very gourmandish fragrance, this is not a typical fragrance for you. This is a fragrance which is equally balanced, so this does not fall into the gourmandish category. This is not a very sweet vanilla fragrance. No, this is actually a fragrance which is much more balanced. You know what they are actually doing is they are trying to balance out notes, and the base is all in all cedar wood, so a very heavy rush of cedar wood in the base. And after around 3 to 4 hours, when you have already used the fragrance, you get to see the cedar wood, the beautiful smell of cedar wood in this fragrance. So this is the kind of fragrance I would recommend guys who actually, let's say if you are into spicy fragrances, this is a fragrance for you. The bottle and all of it looks very pleasing. I think both of these bottles look very identical apart from the labeling. So apart from that, both of the bottles are very identical. The juice is obviously very different, and the color of the juice is also very different. Now Aeronot has both of these bottles in the exclusive collection, and the Might of Africa would be a fragrance which I would recommend guys who are trying to go for something much more unique. So perfumes are basically an important part of your lifestyle. When you use perfumes, you get to understand what perfumes smell like, you get to know what you can smell like, and what other, like how complex the things and how deep the rabbit hole is. With that being said, these are the reviews of both of these brands, and I was actually in love with this fragrance. So here's the final summary. And in buying guide, the most important thing is the summary. So here I'll summarize it as quick as possible and as easily as possible so that all of you can understand. So if anyone who's just wanted to drop into the summary and check this for like a few minutes, you can just check this out. First thing, the Might of Africa is a warm fragrance. What you should know is it falls in the warm spicy category. So this is a warm spicy fragrance. Secondly, this is an EDP concentration. Third, this fragrance is a 50 ml bottle. Fourth, this fragrance has rich notes of tobacco. There's heavy use of tobacco. There's cardamom, nutmeg, there is vanilla in the base, there's some sort of cedar wood also. So these are the notes of the fragrance, and at the end, the longevity of the fragrance is 9 to 10 hours for Might of Africa. So longevity for Might of Africa is 9 to 10 hours. Longevity for DUNES ZA'FARAN is 8 to 9 hours. And both of these fragrances can be used throughout the year. Now the reason behind these fragrances being used throughout the year was the concept is to give this fragrance as a signature fragrance. These are not daily wear fragrances. For daily wear, I would recommend you to go with the Iconic series. Not only is it much more cost effective, it is much more pocket friendly, but these fragrances could be used when you want to make an impact. And that is about the Might of Africa. So here's the summary of Might of Africa. Let's dive into DUNES ZA'FARAN. DUNES ZA'FARAN has the notes of saffron, so beautiful notes of saffron. I would actually recommend guys to try more saffron. I was actually hooked up with the notes of saffron. Saffron is a beautiful note or an element which you call, and you get this notes of black violet, you get the notes of rose, leather. So beautiful concoction. Again, it's very hard for me to describe these kind of fragrances because at times it becomes very difficult for me to understand these fragrances. With that being said, I think that you get a hint of both of what these fragrances have to offer. If you do have any doubts, do let me know in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to help you guys. You know, I think that a lot of people actually wanted the full guide for the exclusive series, and here you have it. Here is what where you decide which fragrance is for you and which fragrance is not for you. And for me, both of these fragrances are for me because I'll be using a lot of these fragrances. That being said, signing off, Navneet. I hope all of you have a good day ahead.